Everyone in the room believed the old K9 had risen to say goodbye. Rex had been lying on a folded blanket beside Michael Carter's chair, too tired to hold his head up for more than a few seconds. Dr. Emily Parker had already drawn the medication. A veterinary technician stood near the door with tears gathering in her eyes. Rain traced thin, trembling lines down the windows of the Willow Creek Animal Clinic, and the soft ticking of the wall clock seemed louder than anything else. Then Rex moved. The 10-year-old German Shepherd planted his front paws, struggled upright, and crossed the small space between the blanket and Michael. His rear legs shook beneath him. Michael reached out, certain his partner wanted one last touch. Instead, Rex rose higher and placed both front paws against Michael's chest. His body pressed into the man who had handled him through 7 years of military service and 3 years of retirement. His muzzle slid beneath Michael's chin. For one breathless moment, it looked like an embrace. Michael wrapped both arms around him. "I am right here, buddy," he whispered. "You do not have to be strong anymore." Rex did not relax. His ears shifted forward. His nose moved once against the left side of Michael's chest. Then his right paw lifted and struck Michael just below the collarbone. Not hard, but with a deliberate tap. He did it again. Dr. Parker's hand froze above the tray. Michael drew a shallow breath. His face had gone pale. Rex gave one sharp bark, the kind that did not belong in a farewell. It was a working bark, a warning. Michael tried to stand, but the room tilted beneath him. His hand slipped from Rex's shoulder. Before he could fall, Dr. Parker caught his arm and guided him back into the chair. "Michael, look at me. I am fine. You are not." Rex kept one paw against Michael's chest. His breathing was fast now, his eyes fixed on the man's face. Dr. Parker pressed 2 fingers against Michael's wrist. His pulse stumbled, raced, then seemed to vanish before returning in an uneven rush. She looked at Rex, then at the untouched syringe on the tray. "That was not a goodbye," she said quietly. "That was an alert." Before the story continues, share the city or state you are watching from, and tell us what loyalty means to you. Stories like this remind us that courage does not always arrive with noise. Sometimes it comes on 4 unsteady legs. Subscribe and stay with us, because Rex's final mission had only just begun. Michael tried to dismiss the dizziness as he had dismissed it every morning for the past month. He blamed poor sleep, too much coffee, the silence of the old farmhouse, the anniversary he had not spoken about to anyone. But Rex had never accepted excuses. Even in retirement, the German Shepherd watched Michael the way he had watched him on patrol. He noticed the pause before a hand reached for a railing. He noticed when Michael stood too quickly and closed his eyes. He noticed when the man stopped halfway across the kitchen, waiting for the floor to settle beneath him. Michael had told himself Rex was simply getting older and more anxious. He had never considered that the dog might be sounding an alarm. Dr. Parker called for an ambulance while her technician brought a portable oxygen unit into the room. Michael protested until Rex's front legs gave way. The dog sank against him, exhausted by the effort it had taken to stand. That ended the argument. Michael lowered himself to the floor and cradled Rex's head in his lap. "You were the one we came here for," he said. Rex's eyes remained open. They followed every movement of Michael's face. Dr. Parker knelt across from them. She had been a veterinarian for 14 years, long enough to know the difference between hope and denial. She had also been practicing long enough to know when a diagnosis did not explain what she was seeing. The referral notes described advanced nerve disease, progressive weakness, loss of appetite, confusion, collapse. Yet when she pinched gently between Rex's rear toes, he pulled his foot away. When she moved a treat near his nose, his pupils tracked it. His muscles were weak, but his awareness was sharp. More important, his decline had happened over weeks, not over the slow, predictable course described in the records. "Who confirmed the diagnosis?" she asked. Michael stared at the floor. "The emergency clinic in Fairmont. They said his age and symptoms made it likely. Did they run imaging? I could not afford everything they suggested." There was no defensiveness in his voice, only shame. Dr. Parker understood that tone. She had heard it from farmers, retirees, single parents, and veterans who would empty their savings for an animal but hated admitting the savings were already gone. What tests did they run? Basic blood work. They gave him pain medication and told me to watch his quality of life. How long has he been getting weaker? About 6 weeks. And you? Michael looked up. How long have you been dizzy? He did not answer. Outside, the ambulance siren rose through the rain. Rex's paw slid from Michael's chest and landed across his wrist. The gesture was weak, but it held him there. Dr. Parker looked at the dog once more. He spent his strength trying to keep you in this room. Do not waste what he gave you. The clinic doors opened. Fire Captain Ben Alvarez entered with 2 paramedics and a rain-darkened jacket. He knew Michael. Everyone in Cedar Ridge knew Michael, although few could claim they truly knew him anymore. Ben stopped when he saw Rex on the floor. I thought this call was for the dog. So did we, Dr. Parker said. Michael's eyes stayed on Rex. The old K9 had come to the clinic because Michael believed his suffering should end. Instead, before anyone touched the syringe, Rex had discovered a danger no one else had seen. And as the paramedics placed a monitor against Michael's chest, the machine began to sound an uneven warning that matched the urgency in Rex's eyes. The monitor showed a rhythm that should not have been ignored. One paramedic asked Michael to describe his symptoms. He minimized each one. The headaches were mild. The nausea came and went. The moments of confusion happened only when he was tired. He had nearly fallen twice, but both times he had caught himself. Ben listened with his jaw tight. You told me none of this, he said. Michael glanced at him. You did not ask. I have called you every week since Sarah died. And I have answered. You sent a thumbs-up symbol. It meant I was alive. Ben looked at the monitor. Apparently, it was an estimate. Under other circumstances, Michael might have smiled. He and Ben had served in different branches, argued about everything from football to coffee, and stood beside each other at weddings and funerals. After Sarah's death, however, Michael had closed the doors of the farmhouse and made silence into a kind of shelter. Ben had kept knocking until even friendship began to feel like an intrusion. The paramedics placed an oxygen mask over Michael's face. His color improved slightly, but the irregular pattern on the monitor remained. He reached for Rex. I am not leaving him. Dr. Parker held Rex's collar. He is staying with me. I am running a complete panel, taking new images, and checking his oxygen level. Michael shook his head. Listen to me, she said. I have not given him anything. I am not making any decision while you are gone. But if you collapse here, he will spend every bit of strength trying to reach you again. The dog's eyes moved between them. Michael had learned to trust those eyes long before he learned to trust most people. He first met Rex at Fort Carson 7 years earlier. Michael had expected a powerful, eager dog who responded instantly to every command. Instead, the young German shepherd ignored the ball Michael offered, walked a slow circle around him, and sat directly on his left boot. The trainer had laughed. He is deciding whether you are worth the trouble. Michael looked down at the dog. How long does that take? With Rex? He has already decided. Their early weeks were not easy. Rex was intelligent enough to recognize hesitation and stubborn enough to expose it. If Michael gave a command without conviction, the dog stared as if requesting a better argument. If Michael moved too fast, Rex forced him to slow down. They learned each other through repetition, mistakes, mud, heat, and long hours when patience mattered more than strength. The partnership changed during a night training exercise in New Mexico. A flashbang detonated unexpectedly near a concrete wall. No one was injured, but the sound pulled Michael into a memory from an earlier deployment. His body locked. Air refused to enter his lungs. The world narrowed to white noise and dust. Before the medics reached him, Rex did. The dog pressed his shoulder into Michael's knees, forcing him to sit. Then he climbed partly into Michael's lap and struck his chest with one paw until Michael focused on him instead of the past. No one had trained Rex to do it. Afterward, the behavior appeared whenever Michael's breathing changed or his attention slipped too far away. The unit's medical officer called it handler awareness. Michael called it Rex being difficult. Sarah called it a gift. She was the first person outside the unit to understand that Rex did not simply work beside Michael. He measured him. He learned the pace of his steps, the sound of his sleep, and the small tension in his hands before fear became visible. When Rex retired, Michael fought to bring him home. By then, Sarah and their daughter, Emma, had prepared a bed near the fireplace and a blue ceramic bowl with REX painted across the side. Emma was 14 and impatient to prove she knew everything about working dogs because she had watched 6 online videos. Rex ignored the bed and slept across the doorway to Michael and Sarah's room. He still thinks he is on duty, Emma said. Sarah scratched the fur behind his ears. Maybe he knows retirement is only a word people invented. For almost a year, the four of them made a life that felt steady. Michael took a security job at a regional warehouse. Sarah taught music at the middle school. Emma practiced driving in the field behind the farmhouse, with Rex sitting upright in the back seat as if evaluating every turn. Then a delivery truck crossed the center line on a wet highway. Sarah never came home. Grief did not strike Michael like an explosion. It entered quietly and occupied one room after another. He stopped cooking, stopped answering friends, stopped walking into town. He kept going to work until the warehouse changed ownership, then told everyone he preferred early retirement. Emma needed him to speak about her mother. Michael could not say Sarah's name without feeling the highway open beneath his feet. 3 months after the funeral, Emma moved in with Sarah's sister, Claire, 40 minutes away. She said it was easier for school. Michael pretended to believe that was the only reason. Rex remained between them. Emma still visited at first. She brought treats, brushed him on the porch, and tried to talk to her father while Michael repaired things that were not broken. Their conversations became shorter, then less frequent. By the time Rex began stumbling, Michael and Emma had gone nearly 5 weeks without speaking. He did not tell her about the diagnosis. He told himself he was protecting her. The truth was harder. If Emma came home, she would look at Rex and see the last living piece of the family they had been. Michael was not sure he could watch her lose that too. Now, as the paramedics lifted him onto the stretcher, Rex attempted to rise. His rear legs folded. Michael pulled off the oxygen mask. "Easy, partner." Rex dragged himself one step closer. Dr. Parker placed both hands around his chest and supported him. "I have him." Michael looked directly at her. "Promise me." "I promise no decision will be made without you." Ben stood beside the stretcher. "We need to go." The clinic doors opened to the rain. Michael kept his eyes on Rex until the distance and the doorway separated them. The German Shepherd remained upright only because Dr. Parker held him. When the ambulance disappeared, Rex turned toward the closed doors and released a low, unsettled sound. Dr. Parker had heard dogs whine in fear, pain, and confusion. This was different. Rex was not asking where Michael had gone. He was demanding that someone bring him back. She guided him to the treatment area and began again from the beginning. Temperature, heart rate, reflexes, blood pressure, oxygen level, new blood samples, new images, no assumptions. Rex tolerated every touch, but his attention never left the hallway. The technician, Maya Chun, removed the unused syringe from the examination room and returned with Rex's referral records. "I keep thinking about that alert," Maya said. "Could he have known Michael's heart was acting strangely? Possibly. Then why is Rex sick too?" Dr. Parker looked at the oxygen reading and frowned. "That," she said, "may be the most important question we have." At Cedar Ridge County Hospital, Michael answered the same questions 3 different ways because he was tired of hearing them. No, he had not taken any new medication. No, he had not been drinking. No, he had not experienced chest pain. Yes, he had a headache. Yes, the headache seemed worse at home. The emergency physician, Dr. Samuel Lee, paused with his pen above the chart. "Worse at home." Michael adjusted the oxygen tube beneath his nose. "Probably because the place is too quiet. That is not usually how headaches work." Ben stood near the curtain with his arms crossed. Rainwater still darkened the shoulders of his uniform. He had refused to leave after the ambulance arrived, partly because he was worried and partly because he no longer trusted Michael to tell the truth about his own condition. Dr. Lee asked about the farmhouse. It had been built in the 1940s, renovated more than once, and heated by an aging propane furnace in the basement. Michael said the system had been inspected 2 winters earlier. "Do you have a carbon monoxide alarm?" Dr. Lee asked. Michael hesitated. Ben saw it. "What did you do?" "Nothing." That pause had a screwdriver in it. "The alarm started chirping at 2 in the morning. So you changed the battery." "I took the battery out." Ben stared at him. "I bought a replacement," Michael added. "Where is it?" "In the glove compartment." Dr. Lee did not react with anger. That made Michael feel worse. He ordered a blood test that measured exposure to combustion gas and asked a nurse to contact the fire department. Michael sat up. Rex has been breathing the same air. Ben was already reaching for his radio. At the clinic, Dr. Parker received the call before the hospital laboratory finished its analysis. She placed the phone on speaker while she and Maya stood beside Rex's treatment table. Dr. Lee explained the suspicion. Dr. Parker looked immediately at Rex's gums. Then at the notes she had made about his rapid breathing and weakness. His signs could fit, she said, especially if the exposure was repeated. Michael's voice came through the speaker. Can it look like nerve disease? It can make an animal weak and confused. It can worsen other conditions. I need the results before I say more. Is he dying? Dr. Parker looked at Rex. The dog had raised his head at the sound of Michael's voice. I do not know yet, she said. But I know the diagnosis you were given was not complete. For the first time that day, Michael heard possibility without false comfort. Dr. Parker moved the phone closer to Rex. Talk to him. Michael's voice softened. I am still here, buddy. Rex's ears lifted. He tried to stand. Stay down, Michael said. That is an order. Rex remained half-raised, considering whether the order deserved obedience. Maya smiled despite herself. He heard you. He always hears me. The call ended when Ben's radio crackled. A volunteer crew was heading toward the farmhouse to test the air. Heavy rain had flooded part of Mill Creek Road, but Captain Alvarez knew a higher approach through the orchard. Michael closed his eyes. 6 weeks. That was how long Rex had been slowing down. 6 weeks earlier, the first cold nights of autumn had arrived, and Michael had turned on the furnace. The timing matched so perfectly that denial had nowhere left to hide. Memories rearranged themselves. Rex sleeping near the back door instead of beside the fireplace. Rex scratching at the bedroom door before dawn. Rex refusing to enter the basement. Rex standing over Michael when he woke confused on the kitchen floor and could not remember kneeling there. Michael had decided the dog was restless because of pain. What if Rex had been trying to move them both away from the poison? His phone vibrated on the table. The name on the screen made his pulse jump. Emma. The message contained only 7 words. I am at the house. We need to talk. Michael called immediately. No answer. He called again. The phone rang twice and went to voicemail. Ben stepped closer. What is it? Michael turned the screen toward him. Ben swore under his breath and grabbed his radio. Engine 3, be advised, possible occupant inside. 17-year-old female. Name is Emma Carter. Michael swung his legs off the bed. Dr. Lee blocked him. You are not leaving. My daughter is in that house. The fire crew is on the way. She does not know about the furnace. And you are already showing signs of exposure. Running into the same environment will create 2 patients. Michael reached for his boots. Ben put one hand on his shoulder. Listen to the doctor. You listen to me. Emma has a key. She knows the old cedar box is in the basement. If she came to talk about Sarah, that is where she will go. Ben's expression changed. The basement door was beside the furnace room. He raised the radio again, gave the new information, and received a reply broken by static. Mill Creek Road had washed out near the narrow bridge. The engine could not cross. The crew was turning toward the logging access, but fallen limbs were slowing them. Michael called Emma a 3rd time. This time the line connected. For several seconds, he heard only a faint rustling sound. Emma. A small voice answered. Dad. Michael stood so quickly that the monitor lead pulled loose. Get out of the house now. What? Go outside. Do not stop for anything. The furnace is leaking gas. There was a long pause. I came for Mom's box, Emma said. Leave it. I found it, but I feel strange. Michael gripped the phone. Where are you? Basement steps. Turn around. Go up. Open the front door. He heard movement, then a hard sound as if the phone had struck the floor. Emma. No answer. Emma. The call remained connected, but only the hollow noise of the house came through. At the clinic, Rex lifted his head sharply. Dr. Parker was still holding her phone after the hospital call when a new voicemail notification appeared. Michael had accidentally included her number in a group callback earlier. The message contained several seconds of the open line from the farmhouse. Emma's faint voice said, Dad. Rex surged upright. His rear legs trembled, yet he pulled against Maya's hands with a strength he had not shown all day. He turned toward the clinic's rear exit, nostrils working, and gave the same single working bark he had used before Michael collapsed. Dr. Parker replayed the message. Rex struck the edge of the table with one paw and stared at the door. Maya looked at her. He knows her voice. Dr. Parker remembered Michael saying Rex had once belonged to the whole family. Outside, rain hammered the metal awning. The direct road to the Carter farmhouse was blocked, and the fire crew was approaching from the wrong side of a flooded creek. Dr. Parker looked at Rex's weak legs, then at the service harness Michael had brought in with him. She understood the risk. She also understood that Rex was not asking permission. He was telling them he knew where Emma was. Dr. Parker did not put Rex into her truck and drive toward danger without a plan. She called Ben first. He answered on the second ring, his voice clipped by radio traffic. "Emma is inside," he said. "The main road is gone at the bridge. We are trying the north access." Rex reacted to her voice. "Michael told me they used to walk the orchard trail behind the clinic." There was a pause. "The old rail trail." "Yes. It reaches the Carter property from the west, but the last half-mile is narrow. My truck can make most of it." "No. Emily, absolutely not. I have medical oxygen, a field kit, and the only living thing who may know every path around that house." Ben exhaled hard. He knew arguing with Dr. Emily Parker was rarely productive once she had reduced a problem to facts. "Meet us at the rail gate," he said. "Do not go beyond it until my crew is there." She ended the call and turned to Maya. The technician had already laid Rex's old service harness on the table. Michael had brought it because he could not bear the thought of Rex leaving the world wearing only a clinic collar. The harness was faded at the edges, the leather softened by years of use. Its patches had been removed after retirement, but the shape of duty remained in every strap. When Dr. Parker lifted it, Rex stopped struggling. He lowered his head so she could slide it over his shoulders. The change was immediate. His breathing stayed fast, and his rear legs remained weak, but his attention sharpened. He stood squarely for 3 seconds before his hips began to sway. Maya fastened a support sling beneath his abdomen. "We are not pretending he is 20 pounds, she said. Together, they guided him down the hall. The moment the rear door opened, Rex raised his nose into the rain. Water struck his face and darkened the fur along his muzzle. He turned west without hesitation. Dr. Parker helped him into the back of her utility vehicle, secured the oxygen unit beside him, and covered his body with a thermal blanket. Maya climbed in next to him. "You are staying here," Dr. Parker said. Maya shut the door. "You can fire me tomorrow." The clinic truck moved through the flooded streets of Cedar Ridge while Rex stood braced between Maya's knees. Each turn pulled at his weakened body, but he refused to lie down. At the hospital, Michael was still arguing with Dr. Lee when Ben returned to the room. "The fire crew is approaching on foot," Ben said. "Emily is meeting us with Rex." Michael stopped. "You brought Rex into this." "I did not bring anyone. Your dog appears to be running the operation." Michael reached for his jacket. Dr. Lee stepped in front of him again. "Your exposure level is elevated, and your heart rhythm has not fully settled. My daughter may be unconscious, and the rescue team has breathing equipment. You do not." Ben looked between them. He understood both arguments, which made choosing one harder. "We can take him to the command point in the ambulance," he said. "He stays outside the hazard zone. He remains on oxygen." Dr. Lee began to object. Michael's face had already changed. The stubbornness was gone. In its place was the helpless terror of a father hearing silence on an open phone line. Dr. Lee pointed at him. "You remain with the paramedic. The moment your rhythm changes, you come back. No debate." Michael nodded too quickly. "I mean it." "So do I." The ambulance reached the old rail gate just as Dr. Parker's truck pulled beneath the dripping branches of the orchard. Ben's crew arrived from the north minutes later, carrying portable air tanks, masks, ropes, and a monitor that could detect the invisible gas. The rain had turned the trail into brown water. Beyond the gate, the land rose through a neglected apple orchard before bending toward the Carter farmhouse. A fallen cottonwood blocked the wider fire vehicle. Ben assigned 2 firefighters to clear it and took 2 others. Forward on foot, Rex jumped down before Maya could support him. His rear legs buckled on impact. Michael tore off the oxygen tube and moved toward him, but the paramedic caught his arm. "Stay with me." Rex heard Michael's voice and turned. For a moment, dog and handler stood 30 feet apart in the rain. Michael saw the truth he had avoided all day. Rex was sick. Whatever the cause, the weakness was real. His old partner had already forced himself upright in the clinic, already used the last of his strength to alert everyone, and now he was preparing to climb a flooded trail. Michael wanted to call him back. Every instinct as a handler told him to protect the dog from a task his body could no longer safely perform. Every instinct as a father told him Emma had no time. Rex looked toward the trail, then back at Michael. The choice belonged to Michael, but the dog had made his own decision. Michael raised one shaking hand and gave the command they had used for years. "Find Emma." Rex turned west. Dr. Parker and Maya supported him with the sling while Ben's crew followed. The dog did not move quickly. He moved with purpose. His nose swept the wet ground. His ears tracked sounds beyond the rain. Twice he ignored the obvious trail and pulled toward narrow openings between stone walls. The second turn led them around a washout that would have forced the firefighters into waist-deep water. Ben glanced at Dr. Parker. He remembers this route. Or he remembers her. Both were true. Emma had walked that orchard with Rex dozens of times. As a child, she had hidden behind trees while Michael taught Rex to find family members by scent. Sarah would stand on the porch and pretend to be surprised when the dog returned with Emma laughing behind him. Those games had ended years ago. Rex had not forgotten. Halfway up the hill, he stopped. His hindquarters sank into the mud. Maya tightened the sling, but Rex could not rise. Dr. Parker knelt beside him and checked his gums. His breathing was too rapid. "We need 1 minute." Ben looked toward the farmhouse, barely visible through the trees. "We may not have one." Michael watched from the ambulance at the gate. The distance made. Every movement looked smaller, but he recognized the moment Rex failed to stand. His hand closed around the edge of the stretcher. The paramedic kept the oxygen in place. "Trust them." Michael stared through the rain. "He trusts me to know when to stop him." "Then why did you send him?" "Because Emma was inside. Because Rex knew the way. Because Michael had spent years believing love meant preventing pain, when sometimes love meant allowing someone to use the strength they still possessed." On the trail, Dr. Parker opened the portable oxygen line and held it near Rex's muzzle. The dog tried to turn away. Maya steadied his head. "Take the help, hero." For 30 seconds, Rex breathed. Then a sound drifted through the orchard. It was too faint for the humans to identify. Rex's ears lifted. He rose. Not smoothly. Not without pain. But he rose. He pulled them off the trail toward a break in the stone wall. Beyond it, an old drainage path descended toward the back of the farmhouse. Ben checked the map on his radio screen. "That is not the front entrance." Rex kept moving. The rear of the house came into view through the rain. One basement window stood partly open. A pale curtain moved inside. The gas monitor in Ben's hand began to climb before they reached the porch. "High reading," he warned. "Masks on." The firefighters fitted their breathing gear. Dr. Parker stopped with Rex at the edge of the yard. Ben pointed to the house. No civilians and no dog passed this line. Rex pulled toward the basement window. "Rex, stay," Dr. Parker said. He ignored her. Maya tightened both hands on the harness. Ben and 2 firefighters entered through the back door. Another circled toward the front. The gas monitor screamed inside. They searched the kitchen, hall, and living room. "No, Emma." Ben called down the basement stairs. No answer. A shelf had fallen across the lower landing, blocking the most direct route. One firefighter began moving it while Ben checked the room beside the furnace. The cracked exhaust pipe had separated near the ceiling. The furnace was still running, filling the house with odorless poison. Outside, Rex dragged Maya 3 steps toward the stone foundation. He did not pull at the basement window. He passed it. He moved around the corner to a section of wall hidden behind wet lilac bushes. There, he stopped beside a narrow wooden hatch almost level with the ground. The old root cellar. Michael had not mentioned it because the interior door had been sealed for years. Rex struck the hatch with his paw. Once. Twice. Then he barked. Not the warning bark he had used for Michael. This was a locate bark. Dr. Parker grabbed her radio. "Ben, Rex has an exterior cellar hatch on the southwest wall. He is indicating there." Inside, Ben turned from the block stairs and followed the direction. He found a low door behind stacked storage bins. It was jammed from the other side. He kicked it once. The wood cracked. The second strike opened a gap, and cold rain air rushed into the dark space. Emma lay beside the cedar box with one hand curled around its brass handle. Her phone rested inches from her fingers. Ben dropped to his knees and reached for her pulse. Emma was breathing, but barely. Ben fitted an oxygen mask over her face while the second firefighter cleared enough space to lift her. The cedar box had fallen against the cellar door when Emma collapsed, sealing her inside. Had Rex led them only to the main entrance, the crew would have spent precious minutes fighting through the blocked stairwell. "Victim located," Ben said into the radio. "We are bringing her through the exterior hatch." Outside, Michael heard the words through the paramedic's radio. His knees weakened with relief. then locked again when no one said she was awake. "Is she breathing?" he demanded. The paramedic raised a hand, listening. "Affirmative. She is breathing." Michael closed his eyes. At the foundation wall, Rex remained fixed on the hatch. Rain ran from the tips of his ears. His legs shook so hard that Maya had lowered the sling almost to the ground, yet he would not sit. The hatch opened. Ben backed out first, supporting Emma's shoulders. Another firefighter lifted her legs. Her dark hair was wet where it had fallen across the cellar floor, and her face looked frighteningly colorless beneath the oxygen mask. Rex lunged toward her. Dr. Parker allowed him, close enough to touch his nose to Emma's hand. The dog inhaled once, then moved his muzzle toward her face. Her eyelids fluttered. "Rex," she whispered. The sound was almost lost beneath the rain. His tail struck the ground once. That single movement seemed to use everything he had left. The firefighters carried Emma toward the rail gate. Dr. Parker expected Rex to follow, but he turned back toward the house. "Rex, no." He pulled at the harness. The furnace had been shut down. Doors and windows were being opened, but the monitors still warned that the air inside was dangerous. Everyone had been accounted for. Then Dr. Parker saw what Rex was looking at. Michael had left the ambulance. He was coming up the orchard trail alone. The paramedic shouted behind him, carrying the portable oxygen cylinder, but Michael kept moving. He had seen Emma emerge from the cellar and could not remain at the gate. Rain soaked his hair and jacket. Every step looked unsteady. Rex barked. Michael lifted one hand. "I see her." He tried to cross the yard. Halfway between the stone wall and the porch, he stopped. His shoulders folded inward. One hand pressed against his chest. Rex tore free from Maya's grip. The old dog crossed the mud faster than he had moved all day. His rear legs slipped, recovered, and slipped again. He reached Michael as the man dropped to one knee. "Rex, stay back," Michael said. The dog drove his shoulder against Michael's thighs. Michael lost his balance and fell away from the house, landing on the wet grass. Rex climbed across him and pressed his chest against Michael's ribs. Then he struck below Michael's collarbone with one paw. The same alert. The same refusal to let him rise. Dr. Parker and the paramedic reached them together. Michael's pulse had become erratic again. The exertion, the earlier exposure, and the fear had pushed his body past what it could manage. "Do not move," Dr. Parker ordered. "My daughter. She is out." Rex made sure of it. Michael turned his head. Emma was being carried down the trail. Even through the rain and oxygen mask, he could see her hand lift weakly when she passed. He let his head fall back against the grass. Rex remained over him. The dog was panting, but he would not yield his position until the paramedic placed oxygen over Michael's face. Only then did Rex lower himself beside him. Ben came from the house and crouched in the mud. "The crew found the break in the furnace vent," he said. The levels were severe in the basement and high throughout the first floor. Emma went down for the box and probably became confused before she could get back upstairs. Michael's eyes moved toward the cedar box. One firefighter carried it under an arm. Its wood darkened by rain. "I should have replaced the alarm." Ben did not soften the truth. "Yes." The answer struck harder than blame would have. Then Ben added, "And you did not know the vent had failed. You made a mistake. Now you fix what comes after." Michael looked at Rex. The old K9 had spent 6 weeks showing him something was wrong. He had slept near open doors, refused the basement, scratched at windows, stood over Michael during dizzy spells. Michael had interpreted every warning through the story he feared most. Rex was old. Rex was failing. Rex was leaving. Once that belief took hold, every sign seemed to confirm it. He had nearly ended his partner's life because he stopped asking questions. The thought hollowed him out. Dr. Parker saw his face. "Do not do this here." "Do what?" "Turn guilt into another locked room." Michael looked away. She checked Rex's breathing, then lifted the dog's muzzle gently. "He needs oxygen now." Rex tried to remain beside Michael. Michael touched the harness. "Go with her." The old command carried no authority this time. His voice broke in the middle. Rex stayed. Emma's ambulance had reached the gate and was preparing to leave. Michael's monitor continued to show an unstable pattern. Dr. Parker could not treat both him and Rex in the orchard. Ben made the decision. Load Michael and Rex together. The ambulance crew hesitated. Animals were not normally transported in the patient compartment, but nothing about the day had been normal. They placed Michael on the stretcher and secured him. Dr. Parker climbed beside him with Rex on a padded board at her feet. oxygen flowing near the dog's muzzle. As the doors closed, Michael reached down. Rex's paw found his hand. The two ambulances descended toward Cedar Ridge, one carrying Emma and the other carrying the partner who had found her. For the first few miles, no one spoke. Then Michael looked at Dr. Parker. Was I wrong? She knew what he meant. About bringing him in? He nodded. You were trying to prevent suffering with the information you had. I should have known him better. You knew him well enough to stop when he told you something did not fit. I almost did not. But you did. Michael stared at the dog. What if he does have the nerve disease too? He may have arthritis. He may have age-related changes. He may have more than one problem. I will not promise a perfect answer. Can you promise he has a chance? Dr. Parker looked at Rex's oxygen reading. It was already improving. Yes, she said. I can promise that. At the hospital, Emma woke before Michael was allowed into her room. She remembered arriving at the farmhouse angry. She had driven through the rain because her father had ignored 3 messages about the cedar box. Claire had found it listed in Sarah's old notebook and believed it contained family documents. Emma remembered unlocking the back door. She remembered the house feeling warm and strangely close. She remembered hearing the furnace start, then walking downstairs. By the time she found the box, her head hurt and her thoughts felt slow. She sat down for what she believed would be 1 minute. The next clear thing she remembered was Rex's nose against her hand in the rain. When Michael entered, she was sitting upright with an oxygen tube beneath her nose. Her hair was tied back by a nurse, and the cedar box rested on the chair beside her bed. They looked at each other across the room. For nearly 2 years, both had rehearsed what they would say when the other finally became willing to listen. None of those speeches survived the sight of the other alive. Michael stopped at the foot of the bed. I am sorry. Emma's mouth tightened. For the alarm? For that. For not answering. For not telling you about Rex. For making you come to an empty house, because I kept pretending empty was the same as safe. Her eyes filled. You were going to let him go without me. Michael lowered his head. I thought seeing him would hurt you. You do not get to decide which pain I can survive. No, he said. I do not. The absence of an argument surprised her. She looked at his hospital wristband, then at the mud still dried along the edge of his sleeve. Is Rex alive? Yes. Emily took him back to the clinic. Maya is with him. Did he find me? He found the cellar door. Then he stopped me from collapsing near the house. Emma let out a breath that became a sob. Michael moved around the bed slowly, giving her time to refuse him. She did not. When he reached her, she leaned forward and pressed her face against his chest. He held her carefully, one hand against the back of her head. The monitor beside the bed kept a steady rhythm. For once, Michael did not search for words to make grief smaller. He simply stayed. It was the lesson Rex had been teaching him for years. Rex spent the night in the clinic's recovery room beneath a warming blanket, breathing oxygen through a clear hood while fluids moved slowly through a line in his front leg. Maya sat beside him until sunrise. Every hour, she sent Michael a brief update. Stable. Resting. Oxygen improving. No new collapse. Dr. Parker reviewed the laboratory results as they arrived. The pattern supported prolonged exposure to combustion gas. Rex's muscles and organs had been strained by weeks of breathing contaminated air, especially during the cold nights when the furnace ran longest. The exposure explained the sudden weakness, confusion, loss of appetite, and several of the changes that had been mistaken for an advancing nerve disorder. It did not explain everything. The new images showed arthritis in Rex's hips and lower spine. There was pain, and age had left visible marks. A second test also revealed a common tick-borne infection that could be treated with medication. Neither condition was trivial, but neither justified the certainty with which Michael had been told the end had arrived. Dr. Parker called him shortly after 7. Michael answered from a chair between Emma's hospital bed and the window. Tell me the truth, he said. I will. Rex is old. His hips hurt. He has an infection that has probably made him feel worse, and the gas exposure put serious stress on his body. Michael closed his eyes. But, Dr. Parker continued, his reflexes are present. His spinal images do not show what the referral diagnosis suggested. His oxygen level is recovering. He ate half a bowl of chicken for Maya at 5 this morning. Emma sat up. He ate. Michael put the phone on speaker. Dr. Parker's voice filled the room. He also attempted to steal the other half when she turned away. Maya could be heard protesting in the background. That is not exactly what happened. A laugh escaped Emma before she could stop it. It was the first sound Michael had heard from her that did not carry anger or fear. So he is not dying? She asked. Not today, Dr. Parker said. And not for the reason everyone believed yesterday. He will need treatment, physical support, and honest conversations about comfort as he ages. But he has time. Michael placed one hand over his eyes. He had prepared himself for an empty passenger seat, an unused bowl, and the unbearable quiet of returning to a house without Rex. Instead, the dog was waiting for breakfast at the clinic. Thank you, he said. Thank Rex. He interrupted the appointment. After the call, Emma looked at the cedar box. The firefighters had wiped it dry before bringing it to the hospital. Its brass latch was scratched, and one corner had cracked when it fell against the cellar door. Sarah had used the box for sheet music, family papers, and the small objects she believed deserved more care than a drawer could give them. Emma opened it. There were insurance documents, old photographs, 2 concert programs from the middle school, and a stack of letters tied with a blue ribbon. None were final messages from Sarah. No convenient farewell had waited in the dark for them. They were ordinary letters from years of marriage. Notes Sarah had written during Michael's deployments. A card Emma made in elementary school. A photograph of Rex on his first night at the farmhouse, asleep across the bedroom doorway with one ear raised. Beneath them lay a folded page. In Sarah's handwriting. It had been written after Michael brought Rex home from retirement. Emma read it aloud. Michael, you keep saying Rex needs a mission. I think he already chose one. He watches the doors, but he watches you more. Let him remind you that coming home is also a kind of service. Emma needs the father who laughs at burnt pancakes, not the soldier who thinks every silence is a threat. I need that man too. We are not asking you to forget what happened before. We are asking you to live with us now. Michael turned toward the window. Sarah had given him the note one winter morning. He remembered reading the first line, kissing her forehead, and placing it in the box because he was late for work. He had never read the rest. Emma held the page with both hands. She saw it before we did, she said. Michael nodded. She saw what? That Rex was not the only one who came home, still waiting for orders. The words were gentle, but they reached places anger had not. Michael sat beside her. I thought if I kept everything controlled, I could keep you safe. You stopped letting me know you. I know. You stopped letting anyone know you. He looked at the photograph of Rex across the doorway. I know that too. Emma folded the note carefully. I am still angry. You should be. I am not moving back tomorrow. I am not asking you to. I do not know how to make this normal. Neither do I. For the first time, uncertainty did not feel like failure. It felt like honesty. Michael touched the cracked corner of the box. Maybe we start with visiting Rex. Emma looked at him. Together? Together. By noon, both had been cleared to leave the hospital with instructions to rest, avoid the farmhouse until the fire department approved it, and return immediately if symptoms came back. Ben drove them to the clinic. The rain had ended. Sunlight reflected from puddles across the parking lot. Inside, Rex heard Michael's footsteps before the front door opened. His head rose from the blanket. Emma entered first. For a second, the old dog stared as if comparing the young woman before him with the girl who once hid behind orchard trees. Then his ears lifted, and his tail swept once across the floor. Emma dropped to her knees. Rex tried to stand. Do not you dare, she whispered. He stood anyway. His legs were unsteady, and Maya moved to support him, but Emma reached him first. She wrapped her arms around his neck and buried her face in the thick fur beneath his collar. You stubborn old man. Rex leaned into her. Michael stopped a few feet away. The sight of them together reopened the grief he had spent years locking down, but the pain no longer felt like an enemy. It was proof that Sarah had existed in every ordinary moment the three of them remembered. Rex looked over Emma's shoulder toward Michael. The dog did not have to choose between them. He never had. Michael crouched beside his daughter and placed one hand on Rex's back. Dr. Parker watched from the doorway. Yesterday, the same 3 bodies had formed a different shape. A man preparing to say goodbye. A dog refusing the ending. A veterinarian noticing one detail that did not fit. Now the room held no miracle in the simple sense. Rex had not become young. Michael had not erased his mistakes. Emma had not forgotten 2 years of distance. What they had been given was harder and more valuable than a miracle. They had been given another chance to act differently. The farmhouse remained closed for 3 weeks while the furnace was replaced, every vent was inspected, and new alarms were installed on both floors. Michael did not return there alone. He stayed in Ben's guest room. Emma visited after school, and Rex recovered in a bed near the kitchen where he could watch every person enter and leave. His strength returned slowly. Dr. Parker treated the infection, adjusted his pain medication, and designed a rehabilitation plan that respected his age without treating age as defeat. Some mornings Rex needed the support harness. Other mornings he carried it in his mouth and dropped it at Michael's feet as if the equipment offended him. Emma began recording his progress. The first video showed 3 careful steps across Ben's porch. The next showed 6. By winter, Rex could walk the orchard trail again, not far and not fast, but with Michael on one side and Emma on the other. Michael changed too. He answered Ben's calls with words. He attended a support group for veterans whose working dogs had retired. He returned to Dr. Parker's clinic once a week, helping families understand that difficult decisions should be guided by complete information, compassion, and the animal in front of them. He never told people to hold on at any cost. He told them to listen before letting go. The following spring, the clinic created a small rehabilitation fund for retired service dogs. Emma designed its first flyer. Ben organized a community walk. Michael stood at the registration table with Rex beside him, the old service tag shining against his collar. When a nervous veteran approached with a gray-muzzled K9 and admitted he did not know what came after service, Michael looked down at Rex. "You build a new mission," he said. "One ordinary day at a time." That evening, they returned to the farmhouse beneath a clear sky. The new alarm lights glowed green in the hallway. Sarah's cedar box rested safely on the living room shelf, its cracked corner left unrepaired because Emma said some marks deserved to remain visible. Michael sat on the porch while Emma leaned against the railing. Rex walked between them, lowered himself with a tired sigh, and placed one front paw on Michael's boot. A moment later, he stretched the other toward Emma's shoe. Neither moved. The old K9 closed his eyes, touching both of them at once. Everyone had believed his final act would be an embrace goodbye. Instead, it became a warning, a rescue, and a bridge back to the family he had guarded all along. Rex had not defeated time. No loyal heart can do that. He had done something more meaningful. He had made sure the people he loved did not waste the time still in front of them. As the porch light came on, Michael rested his hand on Rex's shoulder and Emma placed hers beside it. The dog's breathing settled into the quiet rhythm of home. And for the first time in years, no one inside that house was waiting for permission to live. Share what Rex's loyalty meant to you, and tell us whether an animal has ever helped you find your way back to someone you love. Subscribe for more stories of courage, second chances, and the extraordinary bond between K9S and the people who become their family.